The morning sky over Fort Riverside was a soft blend of orange and pale blue, the kind of quiet sunrise that made every soldier on the base feel like they were standing inside a painting. The training grounds, usually filled with shouting and the metallic clash of drills, were just beginning to wake up. Young officers marched briskly, adjusting their gear, checking their watches, and preparing for the big joint training scheduled later that week. Everyone felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Today was special. A team of Navy SEAL would be arriving for a combined exercise. It was a chance for officers to test themselves against some of the world's toughest fighters. In the middle of all this activity, almost hidden in plain sight, sat an old man. He rested on a wooden bench like he had all the time in the world. His gray shirt hung loosely on his thin frame, and his boots looked older than half the officers on the field. His blue cap had no emblem, no rank, nothing that would even hint at who he once was. To most people, he was just the new volunteer assistant, a quiet, harmless old man who had shown up a week ago and quietly blended into the background. His name, at least the name he gave, was Mr. Hale. He spoke so little that some soldiers went days without hearing his voice at all. He simply moved around the base like a silent shadow, placing cones for drills, sweeping the sand, handing out water bottles, tightening straps on equipment, and picking up anything the wind had scattered. It was the kind of work no one wanted to do, yet he did it with a calm smile. At times he looked so still and peaceful that younger soldiers wondered how he stayed awake. A few thoughtful officers treated him with respect, offering a simple greeting or helping carry heavy boxes. But most of them overlooked him entirely. And then there were the arrogant ones, the soldiers who thought their youth, their badges, and their titles made them untouchable. They treated the old man like he didn't belong on a field of warriors. Two lieutenants walked past one morning, whispering more loudly than they realized. "Who hired him?" One said, shaking his head. "Oh, no idea. Probably some clerk from the old days. He looks like he'll fall over in the wind," the other chuckled. "Watch him try to lift a training dummy. He'll break his back." The old man wasn't far away. He heard every word, yet his expression didn't change. He bent down, picked up a helmet someone had dropped, and placed it neatly on the equipment table. Then he walked away quietly, leaning slightly on his cane. Even though anyone paying real attention would notice, he didn't actually need its support. But beneath all the comments, all the assumptions, a few sharp-eyed soldiers noticed something strange. Whenever Mr. Hale crossed the field, he moved with a kind of fluid awareness. He didn't stumble. He didn't drag his feet. He seemed to know exactly where to step, where to turn, how to balance. When he bent to lift heavy objects, he did it smoothly, without strain, like someone who had practiced physical movement his entire life. He didn't look at the drills the way normal civilians did. His eyes followed every formation, every shift in body weight, every angle of a soldier's stance. And when someone struggled with equipment or lost rhythm during practice, he appeared out of nowhere, offering a small fix or a word of encouragement. His advice was always simple, always gentle, yet always correct. But no one ever wondered why. No one asked about his past. No one asked why a man who seemed frail and tired moved like someone who understood combat on an instinctive level. No one questioned why he seemed more comfortable on a military field than some soldiers themselves. To them, he was invisible. Just an old man with a cane. Yet deep inside the base, a rumor quietly grew. One soldier claimed the old man had caught a falling rifle before it hit the ground, without even looking at it. Another said they saw him lift a crate that two younger men struggled with. A third swore Mr. Hale corrected his shooting stance with one small adjustment that improved his accuracy immediately. But when they told others, their stories were brushed aside. It was luck. No old man can do that. As the week went on, the anticipation for the SEAL increased. Officers began practicing harder, running faster, shouting louder, trying to prove themselves. And all the while, Mr. Hale remained in the background, unnoticed, quietly watching everything. Then, the day before the SEAL arrived, something unusual happened. During a drill, a young trainee tripped badly, falling forward with a heavy pack on his back. Before anyone could react, before even the commander shouted, Mr. Hale moved. He crossed several steps instantly, caught the trainee's arm, and steadied him with a strength that didn't match his age. The trainee stared at him with wide eyes, shocked. The old man only smiled and said softly, "Careful. The ground can be unforgiving." But that moment came and went. Soldiers were too busy to think deeply about it. Only one quiet sergeant whispered later that wasn't normal. But his comment was ignored, and so the old man remained a mystery hidden in plain sight, until the day when arrogance pushed too far and a truth no one expected, finally rose to the surface. The morning of the joint drill arrived with a buzz of energy that spread across Fort Riverside like electricity. Like electricity. Everyone was on edge. The Navy SEAL were scheduled to arrive at exactly 9 o'clock, and for most of the young officers, this was the biggest event of their year. Meeting SEAL was one thing. Training with them was another. It was a test of pride, strength, and discipline. A chance to prove they were not just theoretical soldiers, but true fighters. The officers gathered in small groups, fixing their uniforms, adjusting their gloves, rehearsing moves, and practicing banter they hoped would impress the elite visitors. Pride flowed through the base like a strong wind. Meanwhile, Mr. Hale stood quietly near the equipment racks, stacking water bottles into neat rows. He didn't join the excitement. He didn't look toward the gate or ask who was coming. He simply worked the same way he always did, slow, gentle, and unnoticed. Then the loud, deep rumble of the SEAL's transport vehicle echoed through the base. Every head turned. The truck door opened, and one by one, 7 SEALs stepped out. Broad shoulders, sharp eyes, hard expressions. They carried an air that couldn't be faked, an aura of men who had seen real danger and survived it. Their presence alone made some officers stand straighter. One of the SEAL, a tall man with a shaved head and a scar across his brow, surveyed the field with a confident smirk. He whispered something to the teammate next to him, and they both laughed. They were here to train, but they were also here to show dominance. Everyone could sense it. The officers tried to make small talk. Some tried to impress them with stories of past drills or bragging about personal scores. Awards. The SEAL listened with polite smiles but didn't seem very impressed. Mr. Hale, as always, simply moved water bottles a little closer to the field. He didn't greet the SEAL. He didn't even glance at them. He just kept working in silence. And that silence made him a perfect target. Lieutenant Jackson, who had been building his reputation as the base's strongest fighter, walked toward the SEAL with a swagger in his step. He loved attention, and today he wanted to shine. When he noticed Mr. Hale nearby, he smirked. He whispered to another officer. He deliberately collided with Mr. Hale as he walked past him, knocking a few bottles off the table. "Easy there, Grandpa," Jackson said loudly, making sure everyone heard. "We don't need you breaking a hip during warm-up." A few officers chuckled nervously. Some SEAL exchanged amused looks. The old man simply bent down, picked up the bottle, and stood it upright again. His hands didn't shake. His breathing didn't change. He didn't seem hurt or angry, just quietly disappointed. But Jackson wasn't finished. He loved attention too much to stop. He moved closer, crossing his arms. "Tell me, old man, were you actually in the military? Or did you just wash dishes at the mess hall?" One of the SEAL laughed and added, "Maybe he used to file paperwork. Looks like that type." The officers around them laughed harder now, encouraged by the attention of the elite warriors. Still, Mr. Hale did nothing. He bowed his head politely and took a step back. A soft voice escaped him. "I'm just here to help, Lieutenant. That's all." But Jackson wanted a show. He wanted to impress the SEAL, and there was nothing easier to dominate than someone who didn't fight back. "Help?" Jackson said mockingly. "Why don't you help us by showing a move or two? Demonstrate what old school looks like." The SEAL with the shaved head smirked. "Yeah, let's see what he's got. Could be fun." The other SEAL laughed. Even the commander glanced over, unsure if he should step in. The situation was slipping. Mr. Hale shook his head politely. No, thank you. I'm not here for fighting," which only encouraged Jackson further. He took a fighting stance, half playful, half serious, and moved closer. Come on, sir. Just one move. You dodge once, you win. Simple." A crowd gathered quickly. Phones came out. Whispers spread like sparks in dry grass. The old man looked around, now clearly uncomfortable. He didn't want humiliation for anyone, not even for himself, but the pressure kept building. When Mr. Hale took a small step back, trying to leave, Jackson blocked his way. "What's wrong?" Jackson taunted. "Afraid you'll break something?" The SEAL with the scar crossed his arms. I let the man show a move, Lieutenant. Everything became still. The sun felt hotter. The air felt heavier. The commander finally stepped forward, opening his mouth to intervene. But before he could speak, Jackson lunged forward with a quick, practiced step. The move wasn't meant to hurt, just to scare, embarrass, and get a laugh out of the SEAL. But Mr. Hale didn't flinch. He didn't panic. He didn't look confused. He simply exhaled slowly, as if he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. In that split second, something inside him shifted. The silent old man who swept the grounds, the harmless helper who moved like a shadow, the polite nobody who allowed himself to be ignored, he disappeared. What replaced him was something entirely different, a presence, a force. The moment Lieutenant Jackson lunged, the field seemed to hold its breath. Even the air stopped moving. Soldiers stood frozen with half-lifted phones. The SEAL leaned forward slightly, expecting a clumsy panic or a desperate flinch. After all, what could an old man with a cane do against a trained officer half his age? But instead of stumbling or stepping back, Mr. Hale simply shifted his weight just enough to avoid the hit, yet so smoothly it seemed impossible for someone of his age. Jackson's wrist barely brushed Mr. Hale's sleeve when the old man raised a single hand. Not fast, not forceful, just precise. A gentle push on Jackson's wrist redirected all the momentum the lieutenant had built up. Jackson suddenly lost his balance, and before he understood what happened, the ground hit him with a thud that echoed across the field. The laughter that officers expected never came. Only shock. Jackson blinked up at the sky, chest heaving, completely confused. "What was that?" Someone whispered. Someone whispered. The SEAL exchanged looks, their smirks fading. Jackson scrambled back to his feet, embarrassed but unwilling to back down. He charged again, this time faster, his pride burning. Yet the old man reacted in the same calm way. No panic, no wasted motion. A turn of his shoulder, a slight touch to the elbow, and Jackson was on the ground again, rolling painfully before stopping near the commander's boots. Gasps erupted around the field. That was no accident. No way he slipped twice. Why, what kind of move was that? Still, the old man didn't grin or boast. He merely stepped back, shoulders relaxed, as if hoping Jackson would finally stop. But humiliation is a powerful fuel. Jackson's face burned red as he pushed himself up again. "I wasn't ready," he muttered. "He caught me off guard. I'll get him this time." Before the commander could stop it, another voice cut through the tension. My turn." It was the tall SEAL with the shaved head and the scar, a man built like a brick wall with hands that looked capable of bending steel. He cracked his knuckles and stepped into the circle where Jackson had failed. He didn't smile. Professionals didn't smile before a test. "You've got good timing, old man," he said in a low voice. "Let's see how you handle real pressure." Mr. Hale gave him the smallest nod of respect. "I don't want to hurt anyone." The SEAL laughed once, a short, amused breath. "Don't worry." "You won't. If he moved first." Unlike Jackson, the SEAL didn't rush in recklessly. His steps were sharp and calculated. His posture was perfect. He came at the old man with the trained precision of someone who had spent years in real combat, not just drills. But Mr. Hale didn't move like an old man. He didn't even move like a normal fighter. He moved like someone who had long ago mastered the rhythm of battle. The SEAL threw 3 rapid strikes, fast as lightning. Mr. Hale leaned away from each of them by inches, so small that dust barely shifted under his feet. To the watching crowd, it looked unreal, almost like Mr. Hale knew where the punches would land before they were thrown. Then came the counter. Not a punch, not a kick, not even a shove. Just a tap. A single precise tap behind the SEAL knee. The big man's leg buckled instantly, and the world tilted beneath him. Before he could hit the ground, Mr. Hale placed a hand on his shoulder, guiding him down gently, almost politely, before letting him land softly on the dirt. The crowd gasped again. "How? Well, he's huge. How did that work on him? I didn't even see it." The SEAL blinked up, stunned or perhaps trying to mask how shaken he truly was. He rose slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Okay, that was impressive." But embarrassment pushed pride quickly. "We go together," another SEAL growled. "Yeah, let's see how he handles all of us." No old man is that good. 6 SEAL formed a loose circle around him. Jackson stepped back, watching with a mixture of fear and awe. The commander froze, torn between stopping the madness and wanting to see the truth. "Gentlemen," Mr. Hale said softly, "this is unnecessary." But they didn't listen. The first SEAL rushed forward, aiming for a grab. The second moved simultaneously, angling toward Mr. Hale's back. And everything happened at once. The old man stepped forward. Just one simple step, and the world exploded in emotion. He turned the first SEAL grab into a stumble with a twist of the wrist. He redirected the second SEAL into the third with a shift of the hip. A fourth came in head-on, only to be swept sideways with a subtle movement of Mr. Hale's foot. The fifth soldier attempted a chokehold but found himself spinning through the air. The sixth was down before he understood how. It didn't look like fighting. It looked like dancing. A slow, controlled dance performed by a master who had nothing left to prove. Within seconds, less than 10 breaths, all 7 SEAL were lying on the ground, groaning, confused, defeated. The field fell silent again. This time the silence wasn't from surprise. It was from fear, respect, and disbelief woven together so tightly that no one dared to speak. Mr. Hale stood alone in the center of the field, holding his cane lightly in one hand, breathing as calmly as if he had taken a casual walk. Not a drop of sweat on his forehead, not a tremble in his fingers. The legendary Navy SEAL, men feared across battlefields, had fallen without the old man ever raising his voice. And the crowd knew, deep in their bones, that this was no ordinary senior citizen, no volunteer assistant, no fragile old helper. They were staring at a ghost from a world they did not understand. A man who carried a power that shouldn't have been possible. A man who had just revealed a sliver of a story that no one on that field was ready to hear. A calm storm waiting to break. And in the next moment, with the entire base watching, without knowing what they were about to witness, the truth began to unfold. For a long moment after the 7th SEAL hit the ground, nothing moved. Not the trees, not the flags, not even the soldiers watching from the sidelines. The field felt frozen, as if time itself refused to continue until someone explained the impossible thing they had all just witnessed. 7 elite fighters, men trained to survive missions in the darkest corners of the world, were defeated by a quiet old man who had spent the last week handing out water bottles. Whispers finally broke the silence. What just happened? Is he even human? Where did he learn to move like that? Lieutenant Jackson, still sitting in the dirt, stared at Mr. Hale with wide, trembling eyes. Moments ago, he had mocked him without hesitation. Now, he couldn't even look directly into the old man's calm face without feeling a deep, burning shame. The SEAL with the scar, who had seemed unshakable earlier, slowly pushed himself to his feet, brushing dirt off his uniform. His tough exterior had cracked. Respect replaced pride. He stepped forward, but not aggressively this time. He saluted, not a lazy salute, but a crisp, respectful one reserved for someone far above his own rank. The other SEAL followed. The old man blinked in surprise, then gave a small, humble nod. He didn't act victorious. He didn't smile. He didn't seem proud. He just looked sad. As if this whole thing had been unnecessary. As if he wished they had never forced him to reveal what he could do. The commander, who had been frozen by shock, finally found his voice. He stepped forward quickly and placed a hand on his chest in a formal greeting. "Oh, forgive me," the commander said softly. "I should have stopped this earlier." Every soldier on the field turned to him in confusion. "Sir?" Why was the commander calling the old man a sir? Mr. Hale tried to wave it off gently, but the commander shook his head. But the commander shook his head. He faced the officers and SEAL, his voice loud, steady, and commanding. "Listen carefully, all of you." The field fell silent again. "This man is not a volunteer assistant," he said. "He's not a civilian. And he is certainly not someone you should ever mock." Jackson swallowed hard. Oh, the SEAL straightened instinctively. "You all know the quiet unit," the commander continued, "but most of you only know the stories, the rumors about a classified team that handled missions no one else could. Missions that never made the news. Missions where success meant the world slept safely while no one knew who to thank." Someone whispered, "The quiet unit isn't real. It's just a myth." But the commander shook his head. It was very real. It still is. He pointed gently toward the old man. "And this is Colonel Mason Hale, the founding leader of that unit." Gasps rippled through the soldiers like a wave. Colonel Mason Hale? The same name whispered in military classrooms. The same man believed to have rescued hostages without firing a shot. The same man rumored to have vanished to avoid fame. Jackson's heart pounded. He felt sick. All the arrogance that once filled him was replaced with humiliation. The old man, Colonel Hale, let out a small sigh. "I stepped away from that life a long time ago," he said softly. "I came here to rest, to help quietly, not to display anything." He looked around, shame in his eyes, not for himself, but for the soldiers who had forgotten humility. "You all have great strength," he said. "You have courage. You have discipline. But strength without kindness becomes only ego, and ego can break a soldier faster than any enemy." A SEAL with the scar nodded slowly, understanding the lesson in a way he hadn't before. Sergeant Willis, one of the more observant soldiers, stepped forward and asked in awe, "Sir, why did you hide who you were? Why pretend to be a simple helper?" Mr. Hale smiled gently. "Because when people think you're important, they stop showing their true selves. They perform, they pretend. They hide their flaws, but when they think you're nobody, that's when you see their real character." His words landed heavily. Jackson stepped forward shakily. His voice trembled. Sir, I'm sorry. Truly, I didn't know." Colonel Hale placed a kind hand on the young man's shoulder. "Apologize not because you were wrong about me," he said. "Apologize because you were wrong about how you treat those who seem weak." Jackson lowered his head, tears stinging his eyes. "I understand now." The colonel gave a warm, fatherly smile. Good. A true leader lifts others up, never down." After the confrontation, the mood on the base transformed drastically. Officers no longer walked with prideful swagger, but with respectful caution. The SEAL approached Colonel Hale for guidance, asking for training tips, not out of arrogance but admiration. Younger soldiers began treating every support staff member with kindness, unsure if another hidden legend might be sweeping somewhere nearby. For the next 7 days, Colonel Hale stayed on the base. He trained soldiers who asked. He shared quiet wisdom. He explained breathing techniques, balance, and how to control fear without forcing violence. He showed that the strongest warriors were often the gentlest ones. Then, one early morning, before the sun rose, he left quietly, just as he had arrived. On the bench where he used to sit, a folded note waited. It read, "Remember, power is not in fists. Power is in restraint. A warrior harms no one, but can protect everyone." When the soldiers found the note, none of them spoke for several minutes, because in that quiet moment, they finally understood the true meaning of strength.